For 30 years, this was the number, the finish line. Marcus and Angela hit it, $1 million. And then they got very quiet. Because $1 million isn't a finish line, it's a starting line for a race that might last 30 years. I'm Jose Martin, and this is Real Talk. Marcus and Angela are composite, but their question is everyone's. Is $1 million actually enough? Marcus managed the warehouse for a family-owned export company down by the port. 30 years of containers, manifests, and getting trucks out the door on time. Angela was a nurse manager at a private hospital, running a floor and a schedule that never quite behaved. And here's the detail that matters. Angela was the high earner, bigger Social Security, more saved. He's 66, she's 65, and they both just walked out for the last time. About $1 million, roughly 2/3 in pre-tax 401ks and IRAs, house paid off and no pension on either side. So every dollar from here comes from Social Security or from what they built themselves. On paper, a success story. In their kitchen, a knot. They want $84,000 a year after taxes, adjusted for inflation. Travel while they can, help the grandkids, and keep the house comfortable. $1 million sounds like plenty until you divide it. This money doesn't have to last a few years. If Angela reaches 95, it has to keep paying for 30. And 30 years is a different animal than 10. It has to survive crashes, inflation, and the plain fact that the longer you live, the longer your money has to. So the real question was never, is $1 million enough? It's enough for how long? I asked one question. How long should this plan work? And Marcus said, well, till we're gone. Fine, let's price that. For a couple their age, there's about a 50-50 chance one of them lives past 90. Roughly 1 in 5 past 95. Most couples plan to the average, about 80 to 85. But planning to the average means half of you outlive the plan. And the one most likely to outlive it is usually the wife. We don't plan for the average. We plan for the long life, which reframes everything. $1 million isn't a number. It's a paycheck you now write yourself for as long as you both shall live. The pile isn't the plan. The paycheck is. $1 million looks enormous on a statement. Spread across 30 years, it looks like something else. $1 million is a paycheck in disguise. Building to 80 or 85 when the odds say one of you likely sees 90. Plan for the long life, not the average one. And here's the quiet one. People assume Social Security keeps pace with their costs. It gets a raise most years, but that raise has tended to trail what retirement actually costs. In our numbers, Social Security starts covering about 3/4 of their lifestyle, and by 95 it covers closer to 6/10. Same check, less life. Your raise and your costs don't rise at the same speed. Now, the number that changed the conversation. We asked a simple question. What's the most they could spend if the money only had to last 15 years? About $117,000 a year, comfortable, generous. Then the same question for 30 years, about $92,000. Same million, same Social Security. The only thing that changed was how long we assumed they'd live, and it moved their allowable lifestyle by more than $25,000 a year. That gap is the price of a long life. And here's the trap. If they'd spent like they had 15 years and then lived 30, the money runs out right around 80. Income drops to Social Security alone. Their lifestyle gets cut roughly in half at 80 when they have the fewest options left. It never goes to zero, but it never catches up either. So we chose $84,000 as a starting point, below both ceilings. And this is the part people don't expect. The math gave us a range, not an answer. The science tells you what's possible. The art is deciding how to live inside it, how much certainty you need to sleep, and how much life you want while you can still enjoy it. Planning is both a science and an art, and anyone who tells you it's only math is selling you a spreadsheet, not a plan. First, Angela, the higher earner, delays Social Security to 70. That grows her benefit about 8% a year, and it locks in the largest possible check for whichever of them lives longer. Meanwhile, Marcus claims, and the portfolio bridges the gap. Then we sequence the withdrawals. Taxable first, pre-tax next, Roth last. So the tax bill stays low. Those early years before 70 are quiet, low tax years, and that's a window worth using. What to convert and When is a conversation that includes your tax professional, not a rule of thumb from a video. Now, their only guaranteed income is Social Security. There's no pension underneath them, so protection here isn't a product, it's how the portfolio is built. A cash reserve so a bad year doesn't force them to sell at the bottom, and an all-weather design, a philosophy, not a promise, built so a rough stretch early doesn't wreck a 30-year plan. Because the danger isn't just living a long time, it's a bad market in the first few years while they're drawing the most down. And aspirations, the reason for all of it. They chose $84,000 instead of the $92,000 they could have taken. That's not timidity. That's buying room for a bad market and a long life. What it buys them is permission to take the trips, help the grandkids, and stop doing the math. So, what's $1 million retirement look like? At $84,000 a year, adjusted for inflation, with taxes and required withdrawals accounted for, their nest egg draws down. In today's dollars, it goes from about $960,000 to roughly $380,000 over 30 years. It doesn't grow, it doesn't need to, it lasts. And it's still there at 95 with room for the surprises. Marcus put it best walking out. I stopped asking if it's enough, now I know how long it's enough for. Now, every one of these numbers rests on assumptions. A steady 6% rate of return, 3.5% inflation, Social Security raise that trails it. Real markets don't move in straight lines, and the first 5 years matter more than the last 15, which is exactly why you build a plan you can adjust and why you don't spend right up to the ceiling. So if you're looking at your own number and wondering not just whether it's enough, but how long it's enough for, that's what we do. Whether you've got $500,000, $5 million, or anything in between, and no plan to turn it into a paycheck that lasts as long as you do, let's build one. I'm Jose Martin, and I'll see you soon.